Hey
Hello.
Simon, what's going on, man?
Not too bad. How are you, Jesse?
I'm doing just fine. So yeah, I really have I watched the film. It was a lot of fun. I have a lot of questions here for you because I'm kind of curious as to how you approach this, from the script standpoint. Like I know
Sure
that
thing.
you have a lot of titles under your belt, but I'm kind of curious. This is kind of a different project here. Can you kind of share your initial inspiration for the script, and what drew you to kind of diving into this unique concept? It's a little bit different from other stuff you've worked on.
For sure, yes. Well, number one, thanks for having me. It's good to come and talk about it. And number two, Blood and Honey, the Winnie the Pooh horror movie. I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yep.
That got me. That was a great idea. Sort of that those guys said maybe not a great movie, but certainly a great idea. But it got me thinking about other public domain characters, things that were going to come into public domain. And when we started looking it up, I realized Mickey Mouse was coming. And I sort of stumbled upon this information in 2023, in the summer of 2023. And it was sort of like known that Disney were going to lose the copyright on the original Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. And that there was no way around it for Disney. They were like, well, it's coming, sort of, so it's coming. And I was convinced that other people would see this because I read the article like in the New York Times or on the Guardian newspaper, which had a bit of a thing about it saying, and it was talking about Blood and Honey, but it was talking about other characters over the next 10 years that are going to come into public domain. So that we're probably going to see a slew of these movies. And I was amazed that nobody actually did a Mickey Mouse horror movie except myself and Jamie Bailey. I thought lots of people would do this. I was like, right, what we're going to do is here's the target. It's the summer of 2023. On January 1st, 2024, the first date that we can possibly do this, we should be releasing a trailer for a movie we've already shot. Like, so the movie's in the can and it's complete. And we just surprise the internet, the world, with the presence of a Mickey Mouse horror movie. And I was convinced that I wouldn't be the only person to do this, but we were the only people to do it, which was great because our trailer got seen by 26 million people in just 48 hours. It was huge, and that wasn't because of us. That was because Mickey Mouse is a global icon everywhere. So
Yeah.
we were getting calls from Australia and Japan and Sweden and Italy. It was nowhere that it wasn't big. So, but the idea was basically I wanted to make a 90s slasher movie because I'm an 80s baby, right? So 90s slasher movies are my kind of thing. So I love Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, all those. I know they're cheesy, I know they're cliched, but I like them, so I don't care. And I wanted to do that with Mickey Mouse. So I was like, let's trap these guys in an arcade, which I also liked because it was like it's an area for play, where adults still play. So it should be a safe area, and it's not. And they get hunted one by one, sort of. And there's a lot going on with the group. There's a group dynamic of characters as well, and I don't know. It's a kind of will they survive the night type thing. Happens over just one night. So I don't know. For me, that worked plenty.
Yeah. You know, first things first, I was one of those people that watched the trailer day one. What is this? What the hell are they
Yeah,
doing? And then number two, I also wanted to comment on the arcade. I thought that was a really clever choice. You had a lot to work with, and it looked really good on screen too.
yeah.
I'm sure this wasn't like a huge budget, but by utilizing that space in the way that you guys did, I thought that it really kind of showed how you guys stretched your dollar. And for me, that was awesome. So, kudos to you for writing
Thank
that
you.
into the
Appreciate that.
script. Um,
Yeah, it was well. I did. I reversed as soon as you were talking about the script. I actually, as soon as I had the idea, and I had the idea about the arcade as well. Before we wrote the script, I went and got the location. So I went and met with a few arcades. I just looked around to see what was available, and I knew that we were going to film it at night when it was closed. And then eventually one place, Fun Haven in Ottawa. Hats off to them. They went with it. Another place, I won't mention the name of them, said as soon as I told them what the movie was about, they were like, no, we don't want that. Sort of,
it makes
they
sense.
were not a fan of that idea at all.
Yeah, so Mickey Mouse, obviously, how did you approach to crafting your own version of this? Because I mean, obviously, you guys, from what I've read, bought the mask and then kind of painted it and made it your own. but how did you shape it to be your character?
So, yeah, good question, mate. Very good question. Bearing in mind the reason I mentioned the love of 90s slashers movies because that was what I was going right. Blood and Honey, sort of they've
Yeah.
made a cartoon character a killer. I like that, just that idea. But I like a 90s slasher movie, so no cell phones. There's a bunch of things I don't like in modern horror that they have to deal with. So I was like, right, and trapped in one location, but let's make the location visually kind of entertaining. So, an arcade is fun because it's got a lot of neon lights and, it's nice to look at, sort of. So with that in mind, I mean, you've already started to paint quite a big picture there, and you're sort of honing in on what your thing is. So I think we had a pretty ridiculous idea and we tried to run with it. But if you've got those things, and even down to scripting, where you're like, I want the characters to be like the 90s, they're kind of cliches. You often had, the hockey guy, the popular girl, so and that was their whole identity. People didn't really, don't think about it too much. That's what it is. There's a weird group dynamic. There's a geeky guy. There's a hot girl. There's a girl who's like is the love interest, obviously, sort of, and there's a guy that wants to be with her, and he's just too jacked up on steroids or whatever. And it's like let's do all of those things, and then you get this sort of very simple, sort of because there's no big character leaps in them, sort of. But to me, I enjoyed those movies. They seemed simpler and like they were just you meant to watch them, have fun, and instantly forget about them. Actually, afterwards, there was no lasting big message here.
Yeah. And I mean, and I guess keeping that in mind, when sitting down to write something like this, was there any challenges you faced, or was there any hurdles maybe that you didn't expect to come?
Not really, because with this project I reverse engineered it, so I knew where I was filming. Like I had the location, so I knew,
Yeah.
for instance, that we could get on a roller coaster and stuff like that. Like I knew all those things.
Okay, cool.
I knew I could be in the laser tag room, and so it was all written around that. What I knew was the sort of geography, if you like, of the place. I knew how to trap them inside. I knew we had to lock which doors we had to bolt shut and stuff like that. So it wasn't hard because you started to get limited by the location. Then I knew it wanted to be that 90s slasher movie, so I knew the sort of style to take it in. And a bit like Jaws, you have to see the killer just a little bit at the beginning, like you tease it, he's stalking them. That was what makes it intimidating. And once he puts the mask on, never take it off. There's it's me in the mask the whole time throughout the movie. So, but that was, people were like, oh well, it could just be anybody, Simon. We can have a stunt man in it if you want, or anything. You're like, yeah, I mean, but I kind of wanted to do it because when I've played bad guys before, there's a certain way of being intimidating that you can do. You mustn't respond to people's body language. There's nothing more scary than going, "Hey, man, what the hell's your problem?" And the guy just stands there.
Yeah.
He doesn't move, and if he does move, it's a slight head turn to the right. That's eerie. That's kind of scary because you're dealing with something like not human or something like that. There's some sort of weirdness going on, and that's like all those things kind of crafted the script. There wasn't any huge mega hurdle because we knew we reverse engineered a lot of it, knowing, well, this is the movie we're trying to make. So we worked back from that point.
And there is like elements of humor, like the conversations between the cast kind of seemed real, and it seemed like actual, kids talking. How did you kind of balance that horror with the comedy and the realism? Because again, I mean, it's Mickey Mouse. This is the most unreal story that exists, and yet somehow the communication between these characters seem very normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like writing. So, I mean, the mistake I think people make sometimes making these movies is they take it a bit too seriously. So I think in the script you have to have a sort of a wink and a nudge to the camera, and when you do that, you have to have your actors do it. So every character gets kind of like a little funny moment.
Yeah.
So that's my rule is that no matter who the character is, the hockey goon, the geek guy. All of them get a funny line, or two, sort of in it. Some of them might have more than others, but it's it's like you encourage them to. I was like, play, sort of it's fun to play, and not everything is so serious. So even when there's like something super serious going on, we have one of our characters. telling this guy that she's too pretty to be in this scenario, sort of, I'm too beautiful or whatever she says, too pretty, too beautiful, sort of, and I'm like, yeah, I like that, and the girl's like, you don't think that's like really, and I was like, no, I promise you that will get when we do this, that gets a laugh, sort of, because it's like it's ridiculous, and
Yeah.
remember that this is kind of a ridiculous idea. Just that's okay. We went with a ridiculous idea. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah. Oddly enough, that was one of my favorite moments. Just because it seems so like fourth wall breaking in a way.
Yeah,
And there's
I had to do that on the day. So that's the thing as well. We were watching it. It wasn't in the script, that line,
oh
but
wow.
we added it, and I was like, "Oh, you know what you should say here? This is what you should say. You should say this." And then she was like, "Oh, okay, really?" And I was like, "Trust me. Yeah, yeah, it will be. It's funny because I'm watching it now and I see it's funny. So my gut instinct, I'm sure, is right on this."
That yeah, and it was. Jumping back a little bit, I want to ask you about the trailer. The teaser trailer received massive attention as you mentioned. Because of that response, did that impact your expectations or for the film's release? Did that add like a little bit of pressure to make sure that like this would come out soon? Because elephant in the room, this is not the only Mickey Mouse movie coming out now. So was it like a
It
high
was. I was surprised that there wasn't more, to be honest. But we are, I don't care what they say, Jesse. We're the first ones. So
that's
everybody is just watching to see what happens to us. They go, well, is Disney going to sue you guys? And you're like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Sort of. I know that when we dropped the trailer, it was 26 million people in 48 hours saw the trailer everywhere. I was getting calls from everywhere, like everywhere in the world, because Mickey is such a global, iconic character. All I know is that it went out, and then after that, we were trying to get the movie. The movie was ready. Bear in mind, on January 1st, the movie was ready to be released. And then we had 6 months of lawyers
Yeah.
making sure that we wouldn't be copyright opinions, errors and omissions, insurance guys, like every kind of legal guy you can think of, and they were just all making sure that, like, well, did you observe? Are you infringing on copyright? Are you infringing on trademarks or anything that Disney could be mad about? Sort of. And we went through that. That's what the delay was between January and now, basically, was just making sure that everybody was happy, which they are, and they were like, yeah, we observed, we only played with the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse, he doesn't have white gloves, the red jumpsuit, he's black and white, he's,
Yeah.
like, we did all the things we're supposed to. He doesn't look like today's Mickey Mouse, and we don't have Disney style music in the film or Disney style font or anything, like there's nothing that would cause brand confusion. And indeed, we have to start all the things with big disclaimers. I'm sure you saw our disclaimer at the beginning of our movie saying we're nothing to do with Disney
Yeah, nothing to do with Disney or Star Wars or anything else.
or anything. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and the lawyer made us add that. They were like, you have to add something at the beginning that says this isn't Disney. And I was like, okay. And then Jamie Bailey came up with that that
The
big gold
scroll.
thing at the beginning. So which I thought was great because, and that was Jamie Bailey's idea. He was genius there. He talked about it just exactly. I thought it'd be just some boring wording, sort of, but Jamie made it fun, and I
Yeah.
thought great because that's exactly the tone of the movie. So why not?
Is that kind of what played into the title change? Because I know initially it was Mickey's Mouse Trap, and then now
Yeah.
it's the
That was
Mouse
actually the
Trap.
only hit. So we had to add disclaimers to the movie,
Yeah.
sort of, and we had to. They were like, well, you don't have to change the title, but we'd be a lot more comfortable if you did. It's still the same
Yeah.
subject matter, obviously. So, and we didn't have to make any edits in the movie. So it was the hit we decided we'd take. And that, by the way, that's for the USA releasing it. There are other countries in the world that are still using the original title because they like it better. But the US was like, well, we want it on this title. And I was like, okay. It was the hit we were willing to take to get it to screen. So, this happens every now and then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you actually watch the film, it's actually a fitting title and it's very clever. I guess to wrap up here, not to spoil too much because it is clever. Like it's very clever once you kind of actually sit down and take it all in. But the ending, it does set up for a sequel. And if you can say, what are the plans or like, there are other characters that are starting to kind of become available. Is there a plan for a second or third? Have you guys started filming already? What's going on?
I'm sure you know that I can't possibly say anything right now. But what I will say is in Steamboat Willie. I don't know if you've seen the original cartoon, but in Steamboat Willie, Minnie Mouse is also there.
Oh,
So she is also equally in public domain. And if I was making a sequel, I might have Mickey team up with Minnie to be a sort of Harley Quinn Joker killing duo. I mean, that's just me. But I couldn't possibly say anything.
yeah, what do you know?
What do
Well,
I know?
well, honestly, man, like this has been an eye-opening experience. I love this copyright bullshit. Like it's really interesting to me. I took media law and ethics when I went to school, and it's
Oh, you did? Well,
oh
then you know
yeah,
that
man.
Jesse, over the next 10 years, right? It's super interesting because every big character, like, cartoon, I mean, Donald Duck, Goofy, a lot of them. I mean, in 2034, Superman comes into public domain.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bunch of stuff that's like, the next 10 years in filmmaking will be really exciting in this sort of thing because you're like, I don't know what it looks like, but man, am I keen to find out.
Ex
Like,
exactly.
I'll tell you right now, 2034 Superman, I was like, that's interesting. An evil Superman, a sort of Venom to Spider-Man. There's something. One of my favorite movies is the Superman where he turns bad for a bit and he's sort of like
Yes.
freaking peanuts at the bar and so on. And he's I was like, that was really interesting. I was like, I wonder what that looks like. As a whole movie, a
Yeah.
bad Superman. You
But we
know.
got we got Mickey Mouse and the Mousetrap, man. So here at CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing. And Simon, you are doing just fine. Thank you so much for your time. I'm excited for the next chapter, if you will, but I'm also excited to see what you do next, man. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jesse, for having me. Cheers.